realize you're a horrible person. Story 1. Story 2. My ex told me she never realized how miserable she was with me. I looked at our relationship from her side and realized that I wasn't giving 100%. I judged her a lot. Only went to see when I wanted to, stopped taking her on dates, let myself go a bit, and blamed her for not making me feel attractive any. A lot of things that I'm working on fixing right now, not to win her back, but to just feel better about myself. Story 3. Back about maybe 5 years ago, I realized I was a flipping bully. I would put people down for no reason. Found a flaw in them, I pointed it out. I hid it under the fact that I was just brutally honest, until someone had the guts to tell me, I'm not brutally honest, I'm just a bad person. Props to them. When someone bigger and badder than me at my job started treating me this way, I had a huge self-realization moment. I did not like who I was. I knew where it came from and why I had turned into that, and I worked on it. I ended up now at the human being people will constantly call selfless and kind. A good person. I'm not doing it to hear those, but they help. I'll go out of my way to compliment someone in hopes that they hear at least one good thing that day. I never want to be called a bully again. I never want to think with all the happening that I may have been the cause. I've gone back to people I treated horribly and offered up the sincerest apology for my actions. When you take a look at yourself in the mirror and realize you would not want to hang out with or love you, then it's time for a change. I'm forever thankful that this is who I am. Story 4. I think I might be an eater of joy. I'm so utterly boring, but also filled with anxiety that I think impacts on other people's pleasure. People like me at first then drift away. I have exactly 0 friends. I just can't seem to keep people in my life, so I think I must be the problem. Edit. This blew up. I posted this in a raw moment, but it feels true in those moments. Nope to ADH. Yes to depression, anxiety and history of abuse, abandonment, cow childhood stuff, no parents. Yes to stable marriage. I'm also a mum working hard to break the cycle. My cow stays contained. That's why I chat cow on here, see a therapist. I do reach out to people. I am the one that plans, asks questions, makes the effort, remembers birthdays, etc. I make initial friendships really easily, then I lose people. They just don't pull their weight at all, or they ghost. They just don't want to know anymore. Half the problem is I live in a community of people that don't share interests in me or the stuff I like. I do the heavy lifting, giving their interests time and space, but mine are ignored. I guess sometimes I feel like I must be an energy drain or a joy killer. No matter what effort I make, it isn't enough for people. So I've stopped making the effort. I'm trying to just be me. Trying to stop crucifying myself over their opinions. Oh, and no, I don't vocalize my anxieties. I come from a really complicated and poor background, however, and I think people get to know me and can't be bothered with my baggage. I don't want them to carry it or even talk about it much, but I can't avoid being real about my situation. It's so unusual. I don't have many normal talking points to share with people, so maybe I'm a bit of a scary proposition. What cow will come up next? Story 5. I was told that I have tell my other friends that don't know you, that you are a good guy. The nicest, unpleasant person you will ever know. I wore that cow like a badge of honor. I slowly just started to be an unpleasant person. It came to a head at work and I realized that this is not who I want to be. It has taken a while to break the habit of being who I was. Story 6. Around 2 or 1 year ago while I was doing the dishes, I started thinking about some old relationships, and I discovered that I broke many hearts. I was sometimes indifferent, acted cruelly, and took advantage of some people's love. Note, I'm not proud. Discovering such a thing in yourself will not make you happy about yourself. Story 7. I can't keep friends for going on 40 years now. As long as I keep up a facade I created to appear kind and humble and sweet and naive, people want to be my friend. But when that facade starts to fall, because it's impossible to keep it up forever, they discover I am actually negative, jealous, insecure, aloof, selfish, and mean-spirited. ETA. I guess technically I do have one longtime friend that comes and goes, but she's a bad person too. It's actually what bonded us. So I probably shouldn't be friends with her if I ever hope to improve. Story 8. When I got sober, when I was drinking, I always thought I was a fun, life-of-the-party type person. But really, I was a piece of cow. I cheated on all of my girlfriends. I flaked on all of my jobs. I stole Momi from my parents for booze, cigarettes, sweets. I messed up my best friend's sister. I neglected my dog. The list goes on. I truly was not a good person. And all of my friendships were just other barflies I would just drink with. When I got sober, I realized I had noon in my life and had to make some serious personality changes along with the sobriety. Story 9. A couple years after high school, I realized I was a sad, edgy thorn. Sure, I had a crappy childhood and was treated like cow, but it doesn't necessarily mean I need to treat others like how I was treated. While I no longer breathe marijuana anymore and barely consume it, I do think it really helped me mellow out and finally chill. Story 10. I don't have a personality of my own. I shape myself according to what other person like, which I later realized is manipulation. I also don't have the same kind of mentality that my friends do. They help each other out. I sometimes do, but I feel bad and don't want to do it because most of the time I am saving for something. And to top it, people think I am nice, but I know I am not, and the kind of stuff I do. I ghost people and I just don't like to talk. And I have never been anyone's top priority or like one bestest friend, which made me realize I am a bad person. Story 11. I was 16 working at a supermarket collecting carts when I saw a $50 bill on the ground. So I put it in my pocket. 30 minutes later, walking the store, I heard a lady on a payphone very upset talking to her husband about losing the money. I knew I should return it, but $50 was $3.40 or my weekly check, so I kept it and bought candy. This was 1997. I've done other horrible things, but most were over 20 years ago, and I've really worked on being an honest and decent person. It feels better. Story 12. After reassessing a former romantic relationship, I was raised in an abusive household. I thought love was abuse. I thought it was normal to yell at and belittle loved ones. So I did that to my boyfriend. I genuinely thought it was normal and didn't question it until after the relationship ended. In my next relationship with my now husband, I have done everything I can to end that cycle of abuse. It's still there in the back of my mind. Love is abuse. But I don't want to hurt my husband. I want to love him and support him and build him up instead of tearing him down. It's hard and I slip up, but we've had many conversations about it and I always take responsibility and do what I need to fix things when that happens. He doesn't deserve what I was given. Story 13. It's becoming my immediate reaction to quickly blame someone else for something I made a mistake on. I don't let this reaction come out as often as it sounds, but it'll be the first thing I will think of doing. Also, I take a while to reply to others when they are messaging. Most of the time, I just don't like to have big conversation and would rather be left alone to scroll in peace. Story 14. When I realized I enjoyed the fantasies of physical, intellectually abusing, torturing, hurting those who have hurt me. No fudge given if they have friends or family, I want them to suffer and break. Perhaps some context. I was severely bullied out of my last workplace to the point I was admitted to A&E for an attempt. It is these people I used to fantasize about. Please note, I have never acted on any of these thoughts. Story 15. My addiction was causing my best friend in this entire world, my soulmate, my person, so much hurt and worry that she realized it's better to stop talking to me instead of slowly losing me. She made the right choice, and she told me what she was doing and why. But it's been the worst 4 days of my life on top of the worst past month of my life. I miss her so much and I can't handle this cow without her. Not that I was handling it before though. She's probably better off now without me. Story 16. Recently, and weirdly, it's candy that brought out all the negative things I refuse to see about myself. Not that I'm a horrible person, but I'm no better than anybody else. I'm selfish and massively insecure and handle my emotions poorly. I blame my problems on external circumstances. I use video games as a form of escapism and don't want to grow up as a 21-year-old living with my parents. I used to tell myself a much different narrative, and it's really difficult to accept that I'm not a good person. Story 17. I people out of my life at the drop of the hat if they do or say something that really annoys me, doesn't align with my values, sketches me out, or seems ill-willed. This may seem like I'm just protecting my peace, but I people off quickly and completely, which often leaves them confused and hurt. I think this stems from a couple specific experiences I had in high school that led me to have zero trust for friends. Whatever the case, it needs to change. Story 18. I have very muted emotional responses sometimes. I've been known to be indifferent about people dying or people breaking up with me. I've lost many friends, typically because of my manipulative, attention-seeking behavior, and the only denominator really is me. It definitely won't be helping me that I'm autistic and ADHD, and a fair bit behind social skill-wise. I've never really been good with people, often because people would avoid me or otherwise think I was weird or creepy. I think, as a result, something in my head has decided that if people don't need me, I don't need them. Even though, at 17 I struggle with social skills, and apart from my family, I have only one friend. I'm hoping that with therapy, medication, and time, I'll be a better person. I hate the fact I can be quite callous or blunt, but it's almost ingrained into me at this point. I can only imagine how I've hurt the people I've met in the past, and it makes me feel awful. Story 19. I was on a plane flying across the country on a ski vacation. An hour into the 5-hour flight, the captain made an announcement requesting any doctors on board to notify a flight attendant because a passenger was having a medical emergency. My immediate thought was, fudge, we better not be making an emergency landing because I might miss the shuttle bus to Whistler. Fortunately, the passenger was okay. The flight continued as scheduled, and I made the shuttle bus on time. But I realized I'm a horrible person. Story 20. When people don't stick around. There's a lot I've self-reflected on. One was that I often lack patience. Another is that people who complain often irritate me, but I guess everyone gets irritated at one point. I always was jealous of others, too. Of their relationships. Their happiness. I wanted their downfall. So that's when I realized I wasn't great. But I think I've gotten better. I'm happy for people when things go their way, after I've accepted that it just won't happen. Realizing and accepting what you lack and what you have is very freeing, especially when there's a clear picture on what you need to work on. Story 21. I am realizing I am a horrible person because I am extremely codependent on people. I am breaking out of this pattern, but it is so hard. I also realize that me being a boring person disturbs other people and does not provide joy in their life. I have become so much better at showing joy and learning to address his issues on my own. Story 22. IMO horrible people never realize that they are. Instead, they thrive on arguing and complaining, get a high from become energized from picking fights, anger quick. They blame others. They are never wrong, ever. Can't figure out why others do not want to cooperate. Think everything is going to hell in a handbasket. I'm sure there's more. Story 23. I know that I can get extremely angry at times, if provoked or disrespect. That's occasionally spilled over into actual violence. I don't make a habit of it, never hit a woman, but I've decked fellas, put a guy in a headlock because he disregarded talking maybe 3 or 4 incidents in 40 years. I don't know if I'm a horrible person per se, but I certainly have the potential to be horrible if my buttons are pushed. Not habitually horrible, but yeah, I've had my moments. Story 24. I stopped in because I was curious, but I've got to say, I don't see any horrible people in here. I see sad people. I see introverts. I see fallible people who make mistakes, just like everybody else, human beings. I see self-aware people who want to change things for the better, but haven't got it all worked out just yet. I don't have all the answers, but hang in there and be kind to yourselves. Story 25. Today, when my boyfriend told me that I'm a horrible person, we went to his friend's house and I don't like his flatmate X. I have met X in their house before and have been engaging in conversations, but I couldn't take it this time. X always ends up hijacking the conversations, controlling the ambience settings, what should be played on TV, etc. This time I was already annoyed just by looking at his face and wanted him and his girlfriend to stay in their room, which she wanted to, but X dragged her out. Also, I knew that he's been cheating on his girlfriend with 2 other girls for a long time. So I tried to politely hint at him to leave us with the person we came to talk to, which he got but didn't budge. I ended up being passive-aggressive and kind of hinted that we judge people who cheat. His girlfriend was not in room at that moment. Only after hearing this, he left us. My boyfriend is telling me now that even if X is an unpleasant person, I shouldn't have done that. Weird part is, I don't regret it. Story 26. I had an epiphany the other night that I don't think I've ever connected with anyone and that I'm very uninterested in my friends. I have to force myself to focus on them when they're talking, and I don't think or listen passionately or enthusiastically when they speak. I don't get lost in thought over my friends. I hear what they're saying, and I inquire more about what they're telling me, but it's very forced and rigid. I've always been a loner and preferred to be alone, and I get very exhausted and annoyed with people if I'm unable to separate myself and recharge. I had a moment where I was hyper-focused on this ball of trash I was tossing around. Everything around me froze, and it's like time slowed down and I was like a cat focusing on a laser. My friend then joined in and was doodling with whatever he had, and the moment I recognized his presence, my focus went from this one small object to everything in the room and around me. It terminated my focus, and I felt terrible, because I couldn't share that moment with him. It turned into third-person mode, and I was then analyzing everything. I instantly felt awkward and realized how uncomfortable I felt, and that I always feel that way around everyone. He started talking about his family, and I just sank and couldn't listen. I felt annoyed. I couldn't bring myself to listen, like actively listen. I didn't care. I wasn't interested. I told him everything, that I felt like a terrible friend because I don't feel I connect with him and that I'm trying and working on it, therapy, and be the friend I want to be. And perhaps I'm a contributor to his anxiety and feeling of being judged because I'm a judgmental person. But in general, I feel like I have to put on a mask around others, and I'm so socially exhausted that I can't lock in and focus on my friends. And I think it's because I'm a deeply insecure person. But yeah, I feel terrible because I neglect my friends and I'm constantly in a state of social confusion and walking on eggshells trying to behave a certain way, and I can't focus on single things like my friends and what they're telling me. And because of that exhaust, I'm in a state of apathy and disinterest, and I'm annoyed with my friends because I need to be alone and want to be invisible. I've always pushed people away, which is why I avoid intimate relationships. And now that I live with others, I feel myself getting distant from them because I'm socially exhausted, and it's making me insufferable and annoyed, and it's near impossible to mask it. Story 27. I was mean to people because I thought it was funny. I got unreasonably upset when things didn't go my way, and I was always angry for no reason. I had to actually put effort into getting my eyebrows unscrunched. I had been mean mugging so long. When people called me a banana, I was actually proud of it. It all came to a head the first time I broke up with a partner instead of the usual getting dumped. I realized I hadn't really been interested in him. I was just scared to be alone, and I was about to hurt him so bad just because I was afraid of being alone. He still hates me, and I don't blame him. I've tried to make right by him, but I think it'd be best if I just do my best to stay out of his life. Unfortunately, I unknowingly started dating my current partner, who I didn't know was his best friend, and that's been almost 2 years now. I've made a major turnaround in my life, though. I smile most of the day. I try to tell my friends I love them and compliment them as much as possible. I'd honestly be pretty sad if someone called me a banana or an unpleasant person now, and if it was warranted, I apologize and take action to change what I've done. My ex is both one of my biggest regrets because of how bad I hurt him, and probably one of the best things that have happened to me. I wish I could have made this change without hurting him, but I don't know how long it would have taken me to turn things around if I didn't have that big moment. I'm also way more open-minded now and realized I was a girl. I'm getting happier, healthier, and nicer every day. One susk. Story 28. I don't know if I'm a bad or terrible person. In general, I'm very soft and sensitive and happy for people. I genuinely feel sad for people when they're sad. I love hearing my friends' good news. However, I also get a weird sick satisfaction when I see how bad my friend's life turned out. We used to be best friends, but as I got older, I realized I was the frumpy friend she could bully and boss about and be hotter than. Then we got older. I got skinner, she got frumpier. I got married and had a family and a good job. She's currently unemployed and single and still living at home. I know her and her family secretly loathe me for not being her bad person anymore. She was recently seeing someone and I found out he ghosted her. I should feel bad, but I didn't. I kind of felt like she deserved it, and she's now living the life she was always meant to live. I think those feelings would be fine if she was a bully or something, but we still pose as friends, and it's pretty poor of me to hold on to a 15-year-old grudge. Story 29. I don't know if this makes me a bad person, but I do genuinely feel good for people that have good fortune fall into their lives. I feel bad for innocent people who get hurt or have ill fortune in their lives. However, if a family member or acquaintance tells me about someone they know that has good fortune or especially a lot of money, it irritates me. It's something about how impressed they are with it, or it's not knowing how to respond that irritates me. I'm not sure if they are telling me to judge my reaction or to anger me or to make me jealous or to make me happy. I can't help but wonder why this is important, especially if it's an extended family member. Maybe I'm not into making judgments on people based on their wealth or social status. I don't know. Story 30. When I was sitting in a train which comes every hour next to the window, and an old woman was hurrying to the door, she reached it exactly the moment the door closed. She looked around in search for help when our eyes met. I immediately did the, well, what you gonna do gesture with my arms before pointing at an imaginary wristwatch with a smile before doing an, oof, you're gonna be here for a while face. Then we departed and her devastated eyes were following me as I went on my way just on time. Story 31. When I discovered Reddit and got downvotes for mean comments. Basically, we get to say what it's on our mind because people don't know who we are. I try to filter it, but some questions here are so dumb that sometimes I can't hold it in and be condescending. Or if I have some kind of political resentment here, it gets worse if I'm hungry tired. I just ate because I was going down the rabbit hole. Recently, I went back and deleted a lot of my mean comments. Not because I regretted them, but because imagine someone who knows me see how evil I have been on Reddit. Don't get me wrong. I like to also answer honestly and help people here too. I like getting good karma, but I just can't resist being mean to certain posts. Maybe I'm bipolar. I can definitely be a horrible, mean, bad person sometimes. I'm the best and worst person I know for sure. Story 32. In 2016, when I voted for Trump BC, I'd been raised to believe a ton of terrible cow. I was 18 at the time, and the week that followed, let alone the next 4 years, made me do a full 180 degrees, as I watched the people who raised me turn into some of the most evil versions of themselves I'd ever seen. I'm not that person anymore, thank goodness. Story 33. I think part of it is my self-confidence, lack of in certain situations and exaggerated in other situations, and being egotistical. Like I'm always thinking about how I'm perceived, and I always thought it was because I am a nice person and want to be nice. But like my thoughts are mean, I think a lot of people are stupid, I know the answer, and I let people figure it out themselves and fail. But I let them make those mistakes. Because I also know if I'm fixing every single thing every single day for every single person, I'd go insane. And I don't really care about people, but just what they think about me. Even when I go through breakups, it's that I feel I'm unlikable and unlovable, but I rarely think of the other person. I feel things intensely, but also keep those feelings compartmentalized from my brain everyday life. Part of me thinks I just didn't learn to be human, or like I wasn't self-aware growing up, and now I'm too self-aware. Story 30. During my relationship with my ex, I realized that even though I had done some poor things and tried to make amends, at the end of the day I wasn't doing anything I was supposed to, and got bitter towards her because of my own shortcomings. I unfortunately caused her a lot of emotional harm, and I hate myself for it because she's wonderful. Story 35. No matter how long I've known someone what they've been through, I never feel an emotional connection. I just feel like I'm waiting for everyone to leave, betray me, so I stay cold and distant. I think sometimes it'd be good to try change that, but then I remember how it feels every time I get hurt. I'm not happy. I still reach for the liquor every night, but at least I'm the only one hurting me anymore.